The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Now, here are your co-hosts, Melissa T., Bruce H., and the Monty Man.
Smiles, everyone, smiles!
Say cheese.
They knew they had a host of new friends. It seemed they had known these strangers always. They had seen miracles, and one was to come to them. They had visioned the great reality. Their loving and all-powerful creator. From the big book, page 161, A Vision for You. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, Bruce. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, good morning.
Come on. I'm just in a disco-y, rocky kind of thing today. I don't know, maybe it's the coffee. And my favorite coffee mug that says, "Thou shalt not snivel" on it, I lost it. And I was sniveling because I lost my mug.
And he found it.
And I found it. Kind of like what Bruce says about, searching after it like it's a diamond instead of an old shoe. That's how I was searching for my coffee mug yesterday.
I bet your sponsee hit it on you.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the great reality. We're going to be talking.
I bet his wife hit it on him.
She did. She just wanted to see me, Plop around. Well, thank the Lord the Super Bowl is over and I can take my TV back from being held hostage. I do not like football. I just don't like it. Never enjoyed it. Never will. Unless I'm watching my son play. And then the light comes on. Isn't that weird how that happens? Then I'm invested in it. Then I'm excited. I don't know what's going on. I don't know a third down from a touchdown. I just know that he's blocking, he's winning, he's and I'm just freaking out, and I'm going and the sad thing about it is, I even cry. I get all emotional.
Can make us cry.
Isn't that weird? But as far as like watching any other teams or anything like that, not interested. Don't care.
A friend of mine was rooting for Seattle yesterday.
Yeah,
and of course he lost.
And we're saying yesterday, folks, because we taped the show on Monday. So if you're thinking there was a game on Tuesday, because this is Wednesday,
yeah,
we've confused you. Anyway, go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, so one of the things he noticed, he didn't have a stake in the game, really. He didn't care who won when it started.
Yeah.
But because he was rooting for Seattle and when they lost, it affected him.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. See, and I told him, now there is a real pride issue.
There are some pride issues at my house too. I'm married to the 12th man. There's a deep depression.
Okay, somebody tell me what that 12 thing is all about.
Their fans, they consider to be the 12th player, and so they don't think that they can do well as a team without their fans. And so
the fan is the 12th player.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, that
and
makes
apparently
sense.
we're the only team that that's
does
what they
that.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right. That makes sense.
That's my new word, apparently.
Apparently.
That's a good one.
Bruce's word for this
week.
Okay. Well, listen, folks. This show is actually going to be up for 2 weeks because Moi is going to be down at the Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference for a week, and so we're gonna. Aren't you guys lucky? You get to come back and tune into this thing for 2 weeks long. Wow. That's a gift. Yeah, I don't know. The topic this week, though, or for the next 2 weeks, is the dangers of self-reliance, particularly when you're in recovery. And we're very possibly going to make 2 shows out of this. So because a lot to be said about this. And this is one of his favorite topics. And I'm sure he'll explain to us why that is. And let me just say this. Webster says the definition of reliance upon our self-reliance is reliance upon one's own efforts and abilities. Interesting.
Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. So we're going to be talking about what's, maybe some positive things about that, but maybe some things you need to be careful of, because self-reliance can get you in a whole load of trouble, right, Bruce?
There's a really big issue I want to talk about this, and if we don't get to it today, then I hope we'll continue another show.
Yeah, you bet we will. All right. Speaking of the Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference, check this out. Hey there, this is the Monty Man from Take 12 Recovery Radio. Many of us have attended all sorts of addiction symposiums and treatment conventions, and so much of the time we walk away from these events feeling like we've been preaching to the choir just one more time. May I suggest a different kind of substance abuse and addiction treatment event? The Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference, February 5th through the 8th, 2015, at the Westin Los Angeles Airport Hotel and Convention Center. The current field of substance abuse and addiction treatment has been evolving for almost 8 decades now. And during this time, we have seen many important developments as well as many failed experiments. It seems time to step back and conduct a professional inventory of where we have been, where we are now, and where we are heading. Well, this conference will provide a forum that encourages professional dialogues of controversial issues, showcases innovative and creative treatment approaches, and offers an overview of the field and its future. For more information, visit www.theevolutionofaddictiontreatment.com. Join me and many of my guests as we attend the Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference, February 5th through the 8th, at the Westin Los Angeles Airport Hotel and Convention Center, 2015. Well, that's right, my friends. It's time for Monty Man's Recovery News in Focus, brought to you by TheFix.com and sponsored this week by Serenity Springs Recovery Center, a fully licensed all-male residential treatment facility located in beautiful Edgewater, Florida. They offer 45, 60, and 90-day individualized treatment programs and honor most insurance providers. Please contact their 24-hour admissions department at 1-844-377-7464. That was magical, wasn't it? My lips weren't even moving. All right, Recovery News and Focus for this week. We have 2 stories. Are you ready? Here we go. I gotta start this out with a bell. Researchers found that people tweeting about marijuana are young and heavily in favor of weed. Yes, tweeters.
Tweakers?
No, tweakers. That's a whole other website. Twitter. Something about Twitter just sounds like a stoner, doesn't it? I'm all Twitter.
Full of twits.
Yeah. Twitter users are overwhelmingly pro-marijuana, and now it's scientifically proven. Researchers from the Washington University School of Medicine analyzed every marijuana-related Twitter message sent during a 1-month period in 2014. Their findings, published online last week in the Journal of Adolescent Health, revealed that within that time, more than 7 million tweets referenced marijuana. According to their analysis, there were 15 times more pro-marijuana tweets than anti-marijuana tweets. Most of the pro-marijuana tweets were about wants, needs, or plans to use marijuana, its benefits, and legalization. Most of the anti-marijuana tweets said people who smoke weed are losers and unproductive, and that smoking marijuana is unattractive. Well, you may act like a loser. You're probably going to be unproductive, and it is unattractive. Sorry. Monty Man calls it like he sees it. The story goes on. The majority of people sending and receiving marijuana-related tweets were under the age of 25. Though concerned that most of the people tweeting about weed were relatively young, the researchers acknowledge that they cannot verify the degree to which tweets correspond with marijuana use. Additionally, people posting pro-marijuana tweets had a total of more than 50 million Twitter followers, about 12 times more than those tweeting anti-marijuana messages. Currently, there are 284 million monthly active users on Twitter, sending 500 million tweets daily. Wow. Yeah, so let's just keep promoting mind-altering substances, shall we, and see where we go. Okay, story number 2.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
It doesn't surprise me either.
I think it's way up there, but man.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me a bit. Yeah. Story number 2, we only have two this week. Researchers found that excessive use of Facebook exhibited the same brain activity as those addicted to drugs or sex. Yes, indeed.
Whoa.
This is not the first time I've heard this. While it should come as no surprise that people can exhibit addictive tendencies towards Facebook, a new study shows exactly what sort of impact compulsive use of the social network has on neural pathways in the brain. Researchers at California State University Fullerton asked 20 undergraduate students to detail their Facebook use to determine if they exhibited addiction-type symptoms like withdrawal or anxiety. The students' brains were then observed with an MRI, while they observed a series of computer images featuring Facebook logos or neutral traffic signs. When asked to either press or not press a button in response to each image, the researchers discovered that those students who exhibited the highest level of addictive behavior in regard to Facebook were more likely to press the button when viewing an image related to the site. More significantly, these subjects were also more likely to mistakenly press a button when they saw a Facebook image than they would if they saw a traffic sign, which study authors viewed as proof that Facebook cues were greater triggers for neural response than more concrete images like a stop sign. The study showed that they would respond faster to beeps from their cell phone than to street signs. You're driving down the road and the light turns red, but you get a beep from your phone at the same time. Zoom, through the light.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Numerous studies have already connected frequent Facebook use with addictive behavior and attributed to a host of negative emotional and psychological responses to overuse, from unhappiness and negative body image issues to relationship strife. Yeah, duh. However, it may be some time before excessive Facebook use is labeled as a genuine addiction. Yeah, all you got to do, it certainly is a compulsive behavior. All you got to do is sit around the dinner table at Thanksgiving and watch how nobody's talking to each other and their heads are buried in their iPhones and Androids or tablets, you know? Mm-hmm. So there you go. More, we say addiction is the number one health crisis in our world. That's a broad term, but here's just another piece of it. Here we go.
I bet Bruce doesn't suffer too bad from Facebook addiction.
No.
Yeah, Bruce is all over Facebook, right? Can't find him anywhere.
I've been on it. People had me on it, but I was sick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, hey, you've been spared.
Yeah.
But believe me, I will tell you, quite honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that Take 12 Radio has about 3,000 followers and we post our shows there, I probably wouldn't be on there either.
I can see the addiction part of it. You know, I didn't want a phone, and I had to get one, you know, to take with me and things like that. But I found myself looking at it and paying attention to it. And somebody told me I could get on the internet with it. I said, no, I'd have to pay for it. Not too cheap. But you know what I mean? It becomes. I can see why they have the addiction.
Sure. Yeah. You bet. Well, that's it for Recovery News and Focus for this week. Facebook, you have my love. Okay, now what? There.
Roses are red.
Yes.
Violets are blue. It's time for Take 12 Trivia. Bruce.
That's right. All right. Take 12 trivia this week. 4 trivia questions and a bonus. Are you ready, gang?
What's
Ready.
it about?
Okay. It's absolutely useless trivia. That's what it's about. Okay. The first one, a duck's quack. A duck's quack does not do this. It does not do this. Here are your choices. Attract other ducks, scare other ducks, or echo.
It doesn't echo.
Doesn't echo. What do you say, Melissa? Attract other ducks, scare other ducks, or does not echo?
I don't think it scares other ducks.
Oh, yes, it does.
That's right. Well, Bruce is actually correct. It does not echo, and nobody knows why. Isn't that a trip?
No.
Yeah, it doesn't echo. Yay, Bruce is just like, man, yeah, I won $1 million. Okay, trivia question number 2.
Going to get some cold cuts. Going to get some.
Cold cuts. Oh man.
Inside joke?
Some people go, what does this have to do with recovery? Because you know what? You've been moping around for way too long. It's time to have some fun. Come on. Get up off the couch and dance around while we do this. All right.
And take pictures and put them on Facebook.
Yes, that's right. Okay, the spot on 7-Up. You know, the red spot, the dot. The spot on 7-Up comes from its inventor and is representative of what? Here are your choices. His eyes, his nose, or a blood clot.
I'm going to go with blood clot.
Okay, what do you say there, Melissa?
These are not good choices. I'm designing a can label. I need to put a blood clot thing on there. Mm-hmm. His nose.
His nose. Well, actually, Melissa's a little closer. It's actually his eyes. He had red eyes. He was albino.
Oh, my gosh.
Interesting stuff, isn't it?
That is interesting. Did Cecil jump?
Oh, Cecil. Okay, trivia question number 3. On average, 12 newborns will experience this daily. An average of 12 a day will experience this. Grow an extra toe, be given to the wrong parents, or can be completely bald at birth. 12 newborns a day. Extra toe, wrong parents, completely bald.
The toe thing is weird. Given to a wrong parent, I don't think they make that many mistakes, do they?
I don't know. What do you
So I'm
think?
going to have
Melissa?
to go with the other one.
You're going to go with born completely bald at birth? What do you think?
I'm going to
Melissa?
go with the parents.
Melissa, you are correct.
Oh,
Average
Lord,
12
Lord,
on a
Lord.
daily basis are given to the wrong parents.
Isn't
That's
that
right.
something?
So are my kids really my kids? I have 2 kids, so I don't know how the odds are affected.
You know how they take that little band and put it around their ankle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that a trip?
Good thing they do that.
All right. Now, here, we'll see how much you guys have been paying attention to Take 12 Radio. This may be a little more difficult for Melissa than Bruce, but we'll see. Take 12 Recovery Radio was originally named Take 12 Radio. Its name is in reference to, here are your choices. There are 4. The 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, 12 Relapses the founder encountered as a newcomer, or a play on the phrase Take 5 producers use while making movies, or all of the above.
I don't know it.
You don't know it? Oh, gosh.
12 Steps of AA, 12 Relapses, play on the phrase Take 5 producers use while making movies, or all of the above. I'm going to give you a clue. Look around the audio booth.
Look around the audio booth.
All the above.
This is all the above.
Well, I want to say all of the above, but I just don't know that Bill had 12 relapses.
No, it says 12 Relapses the founder of Take 12 Radio encountered
the
as
founder.
a newcomer.
I hear founder? Then I'm going to have to go with all of the above, even though I don't know.
All of the above is absolutely correct. You guys are right. If you look over on the door, you see a Take 5. You see a clapper. And that's the reason we have that clapper is because originally the logo was a clapper that said Take 12 Radio on it as a play on words on Take 5. In other words, easy does it, take a break. It was also representative of the 12 steps and 12 relapses Moi encountered as a newcomer before the light came on.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. So there's Take 12 Radio. That's trivia for this week.
Rub it in.
All right, we'll be right back right after this.
Men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia exists to help people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. To speak with an addiction specialist, call 1-855-652-4325. That's 1-855-652-4325. Or visit our website at www.therapia.net. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, restoring lives one step at a time.
I wonder if Elvis listens to this show.
I thought he had left the building.
Yeah, well, he did.
Do you have a pipeline to heaven?
Are you saying that because of his problems?
Huh? Well, if Take 12 Radio had been around back then, maybe we could have helped a little bit. Mm-hmm. You never know.
Yeah.
He would have been listening on his iPad in the back seat in Bruce's cab when Bruce was hiding him out. Which Bruce actually did, Melissa. He did hide Elvis.
No.
When he worked in Las Vegas. Yep.
Yes, he did.
Oh my goodness.
It wasn't Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
I was working for a record company, and I was taking in these records to the lady inside there, and there was a bunch of people outside, and they had me go over a couple blocks and pick Elvis Presley up, and he hid in my truck, and I drove him to the back door, and he got out and he ran in, went downstairs, and that's when he was doing the cut for Girls, Girls, Girls. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Can we touch the hem of your garment? All right, the topic this week is the dangers of self-reliance. Bruce, launch us forth on this thing.
Yeah, I really believe that one of the dangers that's happening is people are relying upon themselves, even though they say they're relying upon a higher power.
And you're talking about specifically within the recovery community.
Specifically, yeah, is what I'm talking about. Is about that, and there's more than just self-reliance. And what AA is all about to me is, we'll clear that up first. It's about finding a power by which to live. And the way we do that is through these 12 steps. And the 12 steps expose our need for we can go to this God with a different attitude and a different heart. But we don't really know who we are. We don't understand the full problem. Okay? So what happens if we're not doing that, we have a tendency to slide back to self-reliance. And one of the things that they've taught us to do is to rely upon the meetings. Mm-hmm. When you're doing that, you're relying upon the meetings and your ability to go to them and talk. So who are you really relying upon?
Yourself.
Yeah. Higher powers, a God of your own understanding. And if that isn't grounded in something other than your own mind, who are you relying upon? yourself. See, but it's a God of your own understanding. Well, what's that? What does that mean? What's that based on?
I know what was originally based on. I know what it's been turned into.
Well, I'm talking, for most people.
Yeah, today?
Because of the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It means you could create your own God out of your own understanding.
Yeah, and seeing if you're doing that, you're relying upon who?
On you.
Self again.
Create your God out of your own
And the
understanding.
book is real clear. We have to stop playing God. That's the first requirement, the very first requirement in the book that we have to do. See? So it's self-reliance one more time, So I'm very, very concerned about that. And I want to make it clear at this point, too, that the book is also very, very clear about whatever your beliefs are, no matter how inadequate they are, they could be self-reliant, okay? You can start from that point. That's one of the most wonderful things that I've ever had told to me in my life. It didn't matter what my belief system was or your belief system was, that I could start from that point.
And that's what makes the fellowship all inclusive.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet. And so a person could be agnostic or atheist or a believer and thinking that God has let him down. A person that is mad and upset about something, you know what I mean? And those steps will work with every one of those things. They're just wide open to that. If you take your inventory and find out what it is that about you and what you bring to that, then you'll see your need, and you'll see that all of that is based on your own crazy thinking. And remember, they said our problem centered in the mind. The real problem, we have this allergic reaction to these things, but we have this, where this thing is centered. So that's still going on. See, that cycle. And it's an emotional cycle, and we get hooked up in it. We become very meeting dependent. We become very step dependent. And we're here to become very God dependent. But you don't hear much of that. If people were God dependent, then they wouldn't be talking so much about the need for the meetings and the steps. You see what I mean? Now, you haven't heard a word out of my mouth that meetings and steps aren't important. But meetings are not the solution. Period.
You have to recognize what they aren't and what they are.
Yeah.
And we're in today's 12-step support meetings in a lot of different fellowships, not just AA, but other ones that use the steps of AA also, including some faith-based ones. Without even realizing it, they're teaching their members to be dependent on meeting attendance for their restoration to sanity.
Right.
And meeting dependence may restore you to sobriety, particularly if you're not an alcoholic, you're just a heavy drinker.
There you go.
But they're not going to restore you to sanity.
There.
It ain't going to happen.
Yeah, are you doing a 12-step program, or are you doing a program of meetings? in just a 12-step program. But it's really hard. It's really hard to find people that will do this. Now, I'm not... How do I say this? When people come to Alcoholics Anonymous, what I do is that the 12 steps in the plan of recovery that they have to offer is based in the Alcoholics Anonymous book. And I take them through that, and I take them through the steps based on that.
Right.
See, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's our foundation. That's where we get our information for what it is that we're going to try to accomplish here, to have this psychic change, this God consciousness. You see what I mean?
Right.
Instead of self-reliance.
Yeah.
See, that's what we want to do. We want to have that and develop that. Then when we get to step 11, before we even go out, we're going out to do his bidding. But step 11 tells me that I'm supposed to grow. And 10 tells me I'm supposed to grow what? In my God consciousness, my awareness with Him, my walk with Him. And so now we're going to shift to, if you're a Mormon, if you're a Lutheran, if you're a Christian, well, then I would expect you to go to that assembly and ask them for books that would help you to grow in your spiritual life. So I went to my pastor, and he gave me a Bible.
Right. So if you were a member of the Baha'i faith, you would, and you were sponsoring the guy, you would expect him to go and become familiar with their literature.
Monty, there's nothing in 12 steps that goes against that. There are 12 biblical principles,
Right.
I believe. And here's the thing, is that now I've got that, and I've learned some things that I believed to be true that are not true. And I'm going to tell you something, they come from the pulpit. So I recognized my need that my faith has to be grounded in something, for I can check it out with people that are even the ones that are teaching me. So my faith is based in the Bible. My recovery program was based in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Do you see I have a place to go to? You asked me, well,
Right.
where did those beliefs come from?
Right.
Biblical. Mm-hmm. That's where mine are. That's where mine
Right.
are based. I believe it's the living Word of God, see? And that's my faith. That's my belief. I'm not asking other people to believe that, but if you care to hear about it, I surely would talk to them about it. Mm-hmm. But so you see what the point I'm trying to make is, what are these beliefs and these ideas that you have? What are they based in? And do you want to go around in this self-reliance when it never worked, even though it feeds your pride? See?
Yeah.
And I believe people like that really haven't taken a good hard look at their self, or they wouldn't be doing that. And now I understand we go back to it. I understand it's a process. But it's so important to recognize, who we are and how to shove this stuff aside, for we can get focused on what the help is. The help's not the steps. I use the steps in every form of my life, but it's not the steps. It's what the steps lead me to.
Exactly.
See, it's what it opened me up to. So that's why my message is like it is, and that's why I think self-reliance has become a real topic that we should talk about and discuss, and how the steps could bring you to a great understanding. When I understood my powerlessness, when I understood what that meant, that I was going to do it again, I don't care how bad I wanted not to. I don't care how many meetings I went to. When I knew to the depths of my soul that the only thing that was going to help me was a divine power, well, then I sought him like it was a diamond ring. I mean, he become very had a worth to me.
Right.
I did not want to go back out, and I knew I was going to. I understood powerlessness. They're not talking about just powerless when you're drinking. They're talking about powerless when you're sober, and only you can answer that. And if that's the case, if you're like that, well, then you're going to need this psychic change and this power in your life to help you to take away that insane thinking and to restore you to a right mind.
Now, let me ask you, Bruce, when you walked into your respective 12-step fellowship, you were not somebody who was, linked up with your Creator at all. True?
I had a faith, but I wasn't hooked with him whatsoever.
Right. Melissa, was it different for you when you walked in the rooms? Did you have some sort of foundational faith in God?
I had a knowledge of God and
Yeah.
Jesus and the whole Savior deal, but I didn't realize that I didn't really know him personally in a way that I could tap into his power. I didn't realize that I had never submitted myself to, asked for, or gone after that power in my life.
I would just go right along with her. Mine was, I had a good upbringing, and I went to church, and I was baptized and accepted Christ, but I don't believe I was saved. I don't believe I was born from above.
Yeah.
I spent 45 years out there, just whatever it took to make me feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my case, I wasn't raised in the church or with any kind of, faith-based background at all. Kind of did that on my own because I heard that there was this music group that I could be a part of, and I thought, yeah, baby, a stage and a spotlight. That's what I was thinking. And God kind of got a hold of me there. That was my first exposure to that, and then I went to Bible college and everything else. But see, my background was Bible college and studying theology, and Bruce was a little different. Yours was a little different. But we were all, I think, before this thing actually happened, where we were exposed to the sunlight of the Spirit, and the spiritual awakening that took place as a result of these steps. I think we were all really in the same position. We were lost. Mm-hmm. So some people listen to the show and they say, "Oh, you guys talk about Jesus a lot." Well, that's because not every show we don't. I mean, there are people that I interview and stuff that's not who their God is, and I don't bash them over the head for it or anything like that. But the truth of the matter is we all come from different backgrounds and so forth and so on, but the solution's the same.
Yeah, and we say we came to a knowledge because of these steps, and we give Steve, it's almost like we have to talk like that, you see, because it was the steps. I'm not disagreeing with it.
Right.
But see, the steps, again, I believe what they really, really are is they open you up for you can go to God with a different attitude. They expose who you are.
That's what happened to me.
Properly.
They exposed me.
So the steps didn't do anything.
No, it was that process that I went through in applying the principles that the steps were showing me, but God was behind that. Mm-hmm. Otherwise I could just go to a meeting and just listen to the readings. If there was power in black ink on paper, I could just listen to the readings and I'd be okay. Which a lot of people try to do, right?
Right.
But that didn't work. Again, and I've said it before, am I dependent on my prayer life or am I dependent on the one I'm praying to? Am I dependent on the steps or am I dependent on the one the steps are introducing me to?
Exactly. That's the main point that I want to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I see happening. People come in and they're broken and they're willing to try Alcoholics Anonymous. And I believe that Alcoholics Anonymous, at least the one that I've seen in the last years that I've been in it, is they introduce you to the meetings. Then the next step would be your sponsor. And so maybe the meetings and the group are a higher power without anybody even realizing it.
Yeah.
Then you just, like the newcomer latches onto that sponsor in a higher power type of a relationship. And then maybe they consider God. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times it seems like I've heard so many people say, well, my sponsor had me get out a piece of paper and write down what my conception of God was, not in, what is really true in fact about God himself, but what do I want my God to be? Right. And so people are coming up with their own God.
Yeah, and that's when you're creating God out of your own understanding, then you become the creator. And the book says we had to stop playing God. That's what Bruce was referring to. And so I know what you're saying.
Yeah, thank you for recapping.
And I know I understand the heart behind that. There's some really good intended people, but I got to tell you, you got people say, well, if I heard God in the meeting, I would have run. Well, let me tell you something. If somebody had told me, and they didn't do this, but I watched people this has happened to. Somebody told me to write a list on one side, put all the things that you were taught God was, and on the right side, put all the things you want God to be. I will tell you that with the way my thinking goes, I would have written all these things that I wanted God to be to justify each and every action that I could. And then I would have given it to my sponsor and said, there, that's what I want God to be. And if they were going on that philosophy, they'd say, okay, make that your higher power then. And then I'm right back to where I was before. I'm God.
See, there's a person that never did the steps.
Right. That's teaching you that.
And we're teaching people that. And the thing that we're teaching people about the meetings is when you go into the meetings, you hear them say, if I stopped going to meetings, so I went out and I got drunk. See where their dependence is? Mm-hmm. In the meetings. And the only reason, if you're the type of alcoholic that the book is talking about, that you're going to go out and drink is because you're unfit spiritually.
Not because you stopped going to meetings.
Yeah. So if that's the truth, and that won't keep you sober, do you see now that if you looked at that and that was true about you, and you was honest about that, well, then you might seek this power instead of going back to a meeting and trying it over. But most of the people that they run across want to just say, well, go to another meeting. Go work with another alcoholic. What are you going to teach him?
Mm-hmm.
You going to drag him to a meeting?
Now, please understand. I want the listeners to understand something.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
No.
But it ain't going to keep them sober.
Yeah, if
people want to argue and say, well, okay, that'll keep them sober tonight.
All right.
Well, just the last one about going to work with another alcoholic. I mean, it says nothing so much ensures our sobriety as work with another alcoholic.
It's assuming one of them has a solution.
Right.
It's assuming it really, really is. It's not, it just upsets me to no end. And now, Melissa, the part that's true, that's so hard, that it does take you out of yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's a momentary thing. But that's all it is. It's a flash in the pan for this thing we call addiction.
And it can be enough to get you over the hump to where, you end up basking in the solution. That's true. We're not saying that it's not. I mean, and I want to make something perfectly clear. Bruce is not anti-meeting.
No.
Okay, and a lot of people misunderstand that. It's like we had Chris Raymer on last Monday's show, or not last Monday before this last one, and he is very passionate about how poisonous today's 12-step fellowships have become. And so people misunderstand that, and they think he's angry and he's bitter, and he's not. He says, but by God, this is my fellowship. He says, and I am passionate about this. We are killing people. And so what Bruce says, meetings don't keep you sober, things like that, it's not because he's anti-meeting at all. It's because he's trying to express to us, what are we dependent on? And it's just like going to church. If I'm dependent on my relationship with Christ, if that's dependent on my church attendance, I'm screwed. Oh, well, my relationship with God is just really failing. I need to get back into church. Well, I may need to get back into church. I may need that fellowship with the believers.
Your spiritual life is better because you go to meetings?
Not mine, man.
See, and
but
in
the beginning
it is.
If you don't know the real true God in the beginning, and he's talking about it being a flash in the pan. Well, early sobriety for some people is a series of flashes in a pan, and you don't know which one is going to be the one. The one.
Right.
And so when they say, it's enough to just to make a beginning, you can start from wherever you're at.
It's a stepping stone.
Yeah, you just don't know.
And you got to start somewhere.
When they're going to hear the thing.
So let me ask you a question, and it's just because I think you're being totally honest here, and I'm so wonderful about that. So do you believe that it's okay to let people think that it's a beginning? If you come here, you think it's okay not to say anything to them, let them think that they're all right?
No, I don't think that's okay. I am honestly just like learning today because I don't know really how to approach it, because I know, even though I had a working knowledge of who my higher power is and was, I didn't even know that I was doing anything consciously until like 10 years sober.
Yeah.
I've learned so much this year about, I mean, I'd never heard about meeting Reliance until this year. Mm-hmm. So
we will pause this. Okay, that was Nala the studio dog barking there. Sorry about that, listeners. Okay, so yeah. Let me regroup my thoughts here. I think
let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
I could think, I think Melissa will understand, because I think she brings something to this program. I had to ask myself a question. Why am I going to meetings? And I found out when I asked myself that question that I was meeting reliant, that I was relying upon the meetings to keep me sober. Now, this was after I've had my spiritual experience and I've had to do it. So I asked one of my sponsees, I said, how are you staying clean today? And he says, well, I did this and I did that. And I says, no, stop and think about it. What are you doing right now? And he says, I'm here. And he says, oh, I am. He says, I'm staying cleaned on a meeting right now. I says, me too. I substitute the meeting for my God.
Mm-hmm.
When I should be bringing my God into the meeting. That doesn't mean I have to get on the pulpit and preach about it, but I think I should glorify Him in all that I do. Mm-hmm. See, because I've grown with Him, and I've asked myself after I asked that question, what am I doing and who am I glorifying? At least try to be the light in the dark, to try to be consistent and steadfast, because we don't see that in a lot of addicts. So I ask God for that strength, and then I give Him praise for that. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm meeting reliant, and I understand the arguments about people coming there like that, but I think people don't pick them up. They don't sponsor them and tell them you can start from this place, but you can't stay there because you'll drink. Because they say, you can't tell people they're going to drink.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said. I mean, everybody can start where they're at, but I don't think that people are being told that they can't stay where they're at.
Yeah, the book is clear. He
yeah,
says,
that's the problem.
Why don't you choose a God of your own conception? You can start from that point. That's what it says.
Yeah.
The rest of it, we added to it. That's okay. That he can live like that, and that'll keep me sober, because that's what they hear in meetings, and that sounds good to the ear channel. The ear, yeah. Oh boy.
Let me just interject here. I for somebody new, and that definition can be really broad, and I'm not going to get into that. But for somebody that's new, and let's just take one definition of that. Their first day. Okay. Maybe their first day and the next following days through a week. I believe that God is very much capable of working through other people to help draw them into a fellowship so they can hear about where this book is, how to get one, how to get a sponsor, et cetera, et cetera. So I believe that God, I don't think he's intimidated by what's going on in the meetings. I think he can show up and he can draw people in, just like he does in a fellowship of people in synagogue and church and wherever. He can draw people in. And there's something there that is very much of the Spirit, not the Spirit of the fellowship, the Spirit of God, that can draw somebody in. That's what happened to me. But it's not the building. It's not the people in the building. It's God working through those things, just like he does through the steps.
That's one of the big ones I hear. Oh, gosh, I wish I could think and say these things properly. If I lost my train of thought.
See, what I'm saying is God will use circumstances, people, literature, and all that stuff to light a spark to get people going to a place where they are become more and more open to be willing to receive the power, the only power that can restore them to sanity.
Yeah.
I don't think I wasn't sitting in a room one day and all of a sudden God came to me like he did the bill, and a white light shone and boom, everything was hunky-dory. Well, not that it was hunky-dory with the bill. But I mean, there was a process. He used these people. He used this literature. He used what was going on there. But it wasn't what was going on there that was the sufficient answer. Does that make sense? This sounds like a paradox.
There's
a lot of them in the program.
Yeah.
So I go to all these meetings and I support the meetings, okay? So let me tell you something. I'm part of the problem of what I'm talking about. I am part of the problem in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
I go in there and I share. And I think I'm going to help somebody with my sharing. And they might hear it, you know what I mean, and say, oh, yeah, I'm like him. And if they approach me and we talk, and maybe I can pick them up and then show them the solution, that would be a good thing. But I'm not in there for that. I'm in there because I'm trying to change this. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
When I should be in the meetings, listening, for I'll know how to make the approach to the person that's talking.
Right.
I'm not supposed to be in there trying to win somebody's confidence or save them.
No.
That's not what meetings are for. But see, they're using the meetings. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get in trouble for it, okay? They're using the meetings. It's like group therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
they
I
really
know it.
believe if
I
they
know it.
say this and do this, and it's a form of the psychological approach.
Yep.
And the
free,
book
I'm
is,
going to get my free group therapy in
Yep.
and the book is
One of the
crystal
12-step
clear
programs.
that does not work. And if you're using this, it's a human power, the group.
Mm-hmm.
See, one more time. We're not looking for no human power could have relieved us from our alcoholism.
Okay, so let me
No human power.
Let me kind of rephrase what I was saying and capsulize it because we are out of time. But okay, it's not healthy for us to depend on the meetings or use the meetings or other people for our reliance.
That's right.
But God will use those things to draw him for us to be reliant upon him.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't use them; he uses them.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
And I'm
Sure.
sure we're going to talk about this again, but our understanding of spiritual things does play a key role in the reality of whether or not we're doing what we say we're doing. So a newcomer really honestly believes that he's depending upon a higher power or even God himself
By going to the meeting.
by going to the meetings.
Yes,
Yes.
I understand that. Yeah.
So
Yes.
so that could actually be what's taking place.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
then we can go deeper in that relationship. So I
How?
think that
How?
I was relying on God, I believe, to the extent that I knew how, all these years until I discovered that I needed I just saw more and more my need for him, actually, and I continue to see that. And even if I was to even become completely not meeting reliant and not self-reliant and totally God reliant, I think I can even go deeper in that, in my understanding of God and my understanding of my brokenness.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, but
No, I hear you.
Yeah, I think we will talk about that more. And you bring a uniqueness to this, and so please don't think that I don't agree with some of the things you're saying. I do. And just like I agree that we're doing those things, I'm doing them too. But I don't necessarily think that all of them are helpful. Mm-hmm. I think I'm justifying.
And that's why it is so vitally important that we have people that have gone through this book, that have had this experience, that have a relationship with God, who are sponsoring people and not turning people over to sponsors that have done steps 1 and 2, or just going to meetings, because they're not being taught what the truth is. They're being taught some nice warm fuzzies, and they're staying sober because a lot of them aren't alcoholics.
See, after I meet him, after I win his confidence and I'm working with somebody, what am I teaching him? If I'm not teaching him the steps, am I just having long, windy talks with him? And I'm thinking that's going to help him?
Right.
That God's going to work through me and help him? I'm not showing him AA then.
Right.
I'm not saying that won't work.
That's sticking with the winners. That's all it is.
Yeah, I'm not saying that won't work. That'll work, okay? If God decides to do that, that'll work. But that's not Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous is teaching them the steps for they can take an honest look at themselves, for they can have a relationship with God. Them, not you. See, this ain't about you.
Right.
Okay? This is about being of service to other people. See, but we want it to be about us because of what we learned. We don't want to turn loose of it.
Okay, guys, we are out of time.
It's amazing, Melissa.
We are out of time, and I know some of you out there are listening, going, man, I don't agree with this. I want to pick up the phone and call. One of these days, you may have an opportunity to do that. But anyway, for now, what you can do is email us at take12radio@comcast.net. Say, I really am ticked off. You're taking my meetings away from me. Please, we welcome that. If not, you think everything we're saying is right on the money, we like that too. But just email us. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/MONTYMEYER. You can subscribe to all of our shows that are updated Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We've got all sorts of workshops. Remember, the Monty Man and guests and co-hosts will not be here next week, so this show is going to go. You're going to get to hear this over and over again. If you want to keep replaying it, burn a copy of it. Please say a prayer for Marcia and I as we travel down to L.A. for the Evolution of Addiction Treatment Conference. I love doing these things, but I hate the travel. I just don't like it. It's just like bad on my back and my knees. But God will get me through it. So you guys have a great couple of weeks. And don't be self-reliant. Be God-reliant, right?
Right.
How about amen?
Amen. All right, everybody. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man, along with Melissa and Bruce. We're wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.